Professor Bohara, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So I think we have 6:01 here, New Mexico time, pretty early, and greetings from the land of enchantment. That's what they say. And as you know, that this is the second graduate student research panel webinar or seminar, whatever you want to call it, and would like to welcome you all on behalf of the Himalayan Policy Research Consortium and the Nepal Research Center of the University of New Mexico. As you all know, we started around 2005 for the purpose of bringing a scholar like you all together on a platform like this so that we can share research ideas, results, and policy-oriented outcomes. So anyway, briefly, this is a group of, consortium is a group of scholars interested not only in Asia, but mostly their research interest focused, let's say, in the Asian subcontinent, but topics that run across the developing world context with common theme are also highly welcome. And we do have like 4 or 5 different initiatives that we undertake every year. And this summer graduate panel has been our second event. And the other one is the main event in December 4th and 5th. So please look out for that. And then we also have a very vibrant e-portal where we welcome various working papers for wider dissemination. So please check that out too. And finally, we also occasionally undertake faculty and student development type workshops, right? And so I don't want to take too much time. So greetings from New Mexico again, and hope that this platform will allow you all to see what else is happening. Like, for example, I'm quite interested. I saw a lot of very interesting papers being submitted. So I'm really looking forward to those presentations and learn new things. And maybe I myself have some research ideas after listening to you young scholars, up and coming scholars. Even though you are grad students, you are the future. And hopefully you'll continue to be a part of the Himalayan Policy Research Consortium's events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bohara, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. I am Disha Shende. I'm currently in India. I actually work as assistant professor at Beloit College in Wisconsin in the United States. And I'm one of the coordinators of this event. And I'm really excited for all the presentations. I'm just going to go over the protocol really briefly before we actually start all the sessions. So we mainly have 4 sessions. Each session is going to be 45 minutes, where every presenter will get like 10 minutes to present. So total 30 minutes for 3 papers, 3 presentations. And then last 30 minutes will be just feedback from the moderators and question answers from the audience. So there, we have 4 main sessions, but because we got so much such a great response from you all, we decided to also have 2 lightning sessions, which will be towards the end. So the lightning sessions, we have like 7 presentations in each of the lightning sessions. Because of the limited time, we won't be able to give like 10 minutes time slot for each presentation in the lightning session. And that's why it's called as lightning session. So you'll have like 7 minutes to present. And again, towards the end will be the feedback and question answer from the audience. I would like everybody to please keep yourself muted unless you're presenting, so that we don't have any distractions. If you happen to have any presentations during the presentation, please type them in the chat box so that the moderator can ask them towards the end of the session. Or you can also unmute yourself towards the end of the session, obviously, when there's Q&A happening, and ask them yourself. yeah, we'll have like 5 minutes of break between all the sessions. And in the end, we have optional short networking sessions. So I know I'm in India and it's going to be really late until that session happens. But if you can join us for a networking session, that will be great. We can discuss the ideas for future, like how we can collaborate and so on. So is there any question about the protocol? I don't see anyone raising their hand or.
Yep. Just I have a question, Disha.
Yes.
Would there be an announcement for the break? Somebody will announce, you or somebody?
Yeah. Yes, we'll do that.
Thank
I
you.
can do that, or yeah, I'll do that. If I'm not there, if I have some internet connectivity issue, then someone from the coordinators will do that. Okay, so it's 5:37 here in Indian Standard Time Zone. We still have like 3 minutes. So if you have any questions about the protocol, you can ask them here. Otherwise, I don't know, we can get started, I guess.
Good morning, Disha. I just wanted to ask the presenters for the first session. I can see Khusiman Pun, he's here. Just want to make sure whether we have everybody. And then the other two presenters, let me see. So Ravi Nirola. Are you here? So Ravi Nirola, okay. And Akanksha Pandey, right? Akanksha Pandey?
Yeah, I'm
okay,
here.
Okay. That's great. So Khusiman Pun and Akanksha Pandey, if you have any question, regarding the, it should be clear, right? What Dr. Disha Shende shared, 10 minutes. You can, maybe, I don't know, I'm fine if it goes up to 1 extra minute or so, or one couple of minutes, that's fine. But we will be very strict with that, okay? With the presentation. So I'm hoping we have 3 of you here already, the other second presenter will also be joining us soon. Then we have all 3. And Khusiman, if you want, you can, I don't know, you can share your first slide or something. So
yeah,
just to make sure everything looks okay before we start.
One more thing. Sorry, Khusiman. I just wanted to say one thing before we start. So we have 4 sessions and they are divided by topics. And if you want the list of all the sessions, I have given a link of that in the chat so that you know what's happening when. So I guess everybody already has that link, but I'm just putting it there in the chat in case you don't have it. Okay, thanks, Khusiman. And I think the first session is a natural disaster, and moderator is Dr. Sakib. So I think we can get started.
Yeah, just 1 minute, right, Disha? Just to make sure. We're just waiting for the second presenter. Hopefully, she will be joining us, the second presenter.
Okay.
Dr. Sakib, will there be 1 minute, 2 minutes before the end of the time? Will you give some warning?
Yeah, I will do that, definitely.
How many minutes before?
Maybe what I'm thinking, just 2 minutes before, 8 minutes, when it is 8 minutes, so we can then try to wrap up.
Okay. 2 is good for me.
Oh, okay. All right. And thank you, Dr. Disha Shende, for introducing this session 1 for us, the natural disasters. I'll be moderating the session. I'm Dr. Sakib Mahmud, Associate Professor in Sustainable Management and Economics at University of Wisconsin Superior. So we have 3 papers for this session, starting with Khusiman Pun, Department of Economics, University of New Mexico. His topic is Female Children Carrying the Cost of Natural Disaster, Evidence from 2015 Nepal's Earthquake. Then we have the second paper by Saurabhi Nirola, Jamsetji Tata School of Disaster Studies, TISS, Mumbai, India. Her topic is Urbanization, Increasing Disaster Risk, an ethnographic study about the indigenous agriculture community in Kathmandu, Lalitpur, Kukhana. And then we have the third paper by Akanksha Pandey, Jamsetji Tata School of Disaster Studies, TISS, Mumbai, India. Our topic is disaster risk governance, an ethnographic study in Gorakhpur. So without taking much time, I will request Khusiman Pun to start his presentation, and every presenter will have 10 minutes as mentioned in our schedule, and then followed by the question and answer session and feedback from the moderator. So Khusiman Pun, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm just trying to share my slide.
Yeah, I think yeah, you should have.
Now, is it okay?
Yeah, I can see that.
Are you able to see my slides?
Now, can you? Okay, yeah, I can see that now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me start my presentation then. Thank you, HPRC team for providing me this opportunity. Like, it's always pleasant experience to present here. And this paper is work in progress, and any feedback is most welcome. So let me go ahead with my presentation. So the title of my presentation is "Female Children Carrying the Cost of Natural Disaster: The Evidence from 2015 Nepal's Earthquake." My name is Khusiman Pun. I'm PhD candidate in Economics Department, University of New Mexico. The background of this study is that on April 25 of 2015, which is almost like more than 7 years, that that Nepal experienced the earthquake to 7.8. Which, if about this earthquake, was that there were like 300 aftershocks greater than magnitude 4 as of 7 June of 2015. So it was a terrible experience for the people, like that we had so many aftershocks even after the big hit of magnitude 7.8 in Nepal. So the earthquake and the aftershocks took the lives of 9,000 people, and 23,000 people were injured. 2 million people were displaced, and this earthquake affected like 8 million people, and almost that's almost 1/3 of the population of the Nepal. And it's from 1900. This was the worst earthquake that the Nepalese people have experienced. So on this background, my research question is did the earthquake negatively affected the secondary school completion of the children, and was there gender difference in the earthquake effect? So data for this study is from Nepal Demographic and Health Survey, and the survey was conducted in June 2016 and which ended on January 2017. And something interesting about this data set is that the earthquake happened on April 2015, and the survey started on June 16. And in this gap, there we have a year of academic. There is a gap of 1 academic year, and which gives a suitable setting for analyzing the effect of the earthquake on the educational outcome. So the second data set, another data set that I am using here, which gives the information of the magnitude of the earthquake, is United States Geological Survey. And moving ahead with the data, this figure tells us about the categories of the earthquake affected districts, and it helps to understand about my control and treated group. This figure here in the orange color, where we have the 15 districts, which is severely affected. So in my model, this is the treated group. And in these 14 districts only are located in the mountainous and the hill ecological belt. Therefore, my control group doesn't include the Tarai belt, whereas the districts around these 14 severely affected districts, that's in the Eastern Development Region and the Western Development Region, those districts are my control group. And this diagram shows the two-way graph of percentage of the secondary school completed across the age groups. And from this diagram, we can see that the people in Nepal, this is a nationally representative data, and at the age of 16 years old, the people start to complete the secondary level education. Okay, that's why like my cohort age groups are 16, 17, and 18, and the comparison group is like 25 to 30 years old. And this is the summary statistics. Here we can see that in 16 years old age cohort, there is this difference which is in favor of the control group, meaning in the treated group, there is this effect of having lesser proportion of completion of the secondary school compared to the control group. And this suggests, whereas in 17 and 18, there is no change, there is no difference, whereas we see this in 16-year-old, there is this difference. So this must be the effect of the earthquake on secondary education completion. So some of my control variables are shown in the summary statistics that I have included wealth index as a control variable, ecological belt, and development region as the control variables. So this is my econometric model. So basically I am using difference in difference model. My outcome variable here is the secondary school completed, and the interest coefficient that I am interested is the coefficient of the interaction of these two variables, treated and the cohorts. This coefficient here, beta, gives the average treatment effect of the earthquake. Delta here is the district fixed effect, and X represents the matrix of control variable of households, wealth index, development regions, month of the interview. So these are my control variables. So this is the result of my this is the main result, where you can see that in the 16 years old cohort, there is this negative effect of like less likely of completing the secondary school by 10%. However, this coefficient is not statistically significant, but the main story behind this coefficient is like you can find when we do the subgroup analysis, where in the male, we don't find any negative effect, whereas in the female, we find that the female children of 16 years old, they are after the earthquake, they are 26.2% less likely to complete the secondary school education. And from here, we can see that the negative effect of the earthquake is primarily or mainly driven by the negative effect on the female children. So I have conducted some robustness check of my main result, because my treatment and the control group might have endogenous issue. Therefore, I have used the magnitude of the earthquake as a continuous treatment variable. After using that, I have found that in the female, each 1 unit increase in the magnitude of the earthquake reduces the probability of completing the education on female by 4%, whereas surprisingly on the male children, there is this increase in the probability by 4%. So it's something like surprising, but this result to suggest that there is this gender difference because of the earthquake. My second robustness check, I have just changed my comparison cohort from 25 to 30 to 30 to 40 years old. And in this robustness check, I still find that in the female, there is this less likely of completing secondary education by 28.6%. And I have a placebo regression test across the false treated group. So the false treated group here is like, I just excluded the treated group that I have in my main model and defined all other districts around the control and treated group that I have in the main model as my treated group. And that how I define my false treated group. And I have found that I am not finding any significant result in the 16 years old cohort, which says that it passed this placebo regression test. So the conclusion of my research is that there was this negative effect of the earthquake on the educational outcome, and that was exclusively through the female children. And the female children negative effect, that is like, there's this, the female children has a less likelihood of completing the secondary education by 26.2%. Whereas in the male, there is no effect of the earthquake. Dr. Sakib, how many more minutes do I have?
I think you know, like just past 8 minutes,
Oh,
close to, so you did a very good job here
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
Thank you.
So,
Dr. Sakib, can I spend one more minute to talk a little
sure.
bit more about?
Please go ahead. You still have a couple of minutes. Okay.
Yeah. So the policy implication of this research is that so in developing countries, female education is really important. So every paper talks about that, especially in the developing country. So if the natural disaster, like this paper shows that there is this very negative effect on the female children in the secondary education completion. So for the policy implication could be like that while going for any post-disaster reconstruction, if there can be some conditional cash transfer for the female children, then that might help them complete the secondary education, and which can reduce the long-run consequences for the negative effect of natural disaster to the girl children and to the society. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Khusiman Pun. And the way our program is structured, I think we'll go through all the presentation and then have the question and answer session. So I will now invite our second presenter, Sauravi Nirola. Are you here, Sauravi? Okay, I don't know whether Sauravi is having some issues. I will request Akanksha Pandey to start her presentation. In that case, Akanksha, you can share your slide, and Akanksha's topic is disaster risk governance and ethnographic study in Gorakhpur. Hello, Akanksha.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So I hope it's visible now.
Yeah, we can see your screen. So that please go ahead, Akanksha.
So hi, hello everyone. My research topic is, I'm going to present a research proposal because I'm just done with my data collection process and I'm still in the process of analyzing it. So I will not be able to share my findings at this moment, but yes, I'll be able to share like how my research is structured and what I am actually doing, what my research objectives and research questions are, and the methodologies, etc. So I will not go in detail about the importance of working on floods because that will consume time. So I'll skip a few slides. But yes, we all are aware about the increasing and devastating mounting losses by floods across the globe. Then in case of India, India is also one of the worst flood affected country, and few of its states in different river regions are very badly affected by floods. One among them is Uttar Pradesh. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Akanksha. For some reason, we are not seeing your slides. It's showing only a blue screen. Unless I'm seeing it wrong,
No, it's okay. Let me
just wanted to make sure whether
you know what? If I was struggling with that, sir. I'm so sorry for that. Actually, if I will not go full screen, then it will be okay. So kindly allow me to not go full screen. Then I think now it must be visible to everyone.
But we cannot see the what you're presenting. That's a problem. We cannot see the very small font.
Okay.
Okay,
in that case,
let me try this way. Maybe.
Is it possible? Just give me a few minutes. Maybe I'll try from a different system.
I think I can see it. It's okay.
In any case, I'm going to kind of like skip these data. I'm not going to, we have only 10 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, Akanksha. Thank you.
We have only 10 minutes. Yeah. So so my research is basically focused in this Ganga river basin. I hope my cursor is visible. So this particular river basin has covers a few Indian states. Uttar Pradesh is one among them. So so basically, this is my this river region is where my research is focused. Since I'm talking about disaster risk governance, so why disaster risk governance? Because sustainable development and the idea of mainstreaming disaster risk reduction basically and mainly happens through a robust disaster risk governance. And for disaster risk governance, institutions play a very, very important important role, because institution as an entity forms such a large so it's really so institutions play a very important role in disaster risk governance and to ensure sustainable development and BRR mainstreaming. So when it comes to institutions at district level are particularly important when we discuss flood risk governance, because the policies like flood management policies or disaster management act or Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, or for that matter the state disaster management act, they all basically shape on ground through district level institutions. So for this particular research, I have reviewed various on literature around different themes. For example, like disaster risk governance, flood risk management, flood risk governance in Ganga River Basin, and districts of Uttar Pradesh. And we realized that the previous works are limited to research works on water resource management and irrigation sector, and they are mostly limited to agent and actors perspective. And there has been very less heard and under researched voices of professionals involved in flood risk management, and there is a dearth of literature on complexities of institutions involved in flood risk reduction at district level. So therefore this research focuses on flood risk governance at district level. I'll skip a few slides so now my research objectives based on the literature review, the gaps in the literature are to understand complexities of institutions involved in flood risk governance and their everydayness at district level. Also to explore how flood risk governance is understood and approached by the bureaucracy at district in Uttar Pradesh. Again, it's a state, as I told you, that it's a, when I say Uttar Pradesh, please understand that it's a state in northern India, of flood-prone state, yeah. And then the third research objective is to explore policy and implementation gaps in flood risk governance at the district level. I have also reviewed, various theoretical perspectives, for example, like neoliberalism, governmentality, street level bureaucracy, public sector reforms, rational choice institutions, and critical institutionalism. And because critical institutionalism suits to the research objectives, so therefore this research has adopted to the theory of critical institution. It is looking at, the research is looking at, from the lens of critical institutionalism. I'm going to kind of like give an idea of my research questions. So as I explained that there are three major research objectives. Now what I'm going to do for the easiness, I'm going to explain the research questions based on each as per the research objective. So as the first objective was to understand complexities of institutions involved in flood risk governance and their everydayness at district. So the research questions that this study has explored are, how have the flood risk governance institutions at district, how have they, how have they been formed historically? Then what are the pathways through which the old practices and accepted norms evolve with any new arrangements for flood risk mitigation, and how do they interplay between formal and informal, traditional and modern arrangements? Then the institutional frameworks, power hierarchy, and international and internal dynamics of flood bureaucracies in terms of flood risk governance at districts. Also, it has tried to address the social, cultural, and political resources that come together to structure flood governance institutions. For my research questions for the second research objective are, the objective was to explore how flood risk governance is understood and approached by the bureaucracy at district in Uttar Pradesh. So the questions are, how do relevant departments of district administration involved in flood risk governance mediate relationships between people, natural water resources, and society in terms of flood risk governance? And what is the understanding and approach of district bureaucracy towards flood risk mitigation? For the third research objective, the two research questions that this study identified and worked on are, to explore policy and implementation gaps. The questions that were explored are, what are the policy level commitments for reducing disaster risk at district level in context of floods, and how does DRR mainstreaming, disaster risk reduction mainstreaming, and flood mitigation shape at district level? The methodologies used for this study, obviously it's a qualitative research, and interorganizational ethnography has been used for this research, and a researcher's position has been partially participant observer. Then field setting, as I told that the research is located in Uttar Pradesh, in the state of Uttar Pradesh, in northern India. So this is Uttar Pradesh, and on northeast of Uttar Pradesh lies Nepal. It shares its boundaries with Nepal, and this is Uttar Pradesh. It has around 24 chronically flood-prone districts. Now, this study is located in Gorakhpur. Gorakhpur, why? Because number one, that it is a chronically flood-prone district. Number two, that it does good. It has better human development index factors, and it has better connectivity infrastructure. I mean, if one evaluates compares these 24, the most developed district among these 24 chronically flood-prone areas, then Gorakhpur is on the top. Then infrastructure wise, human development index in general wise, and then better political stability is also one factor, because it has had a very stable political representation of its populations. One of the member of parliament and long-term politician, local politician, is also now serving as a chief minister of this particular state. So political stability wise also Gorakhpur was on the top, and it also, as gave this element of transboundary river management to the researcher, because there are the district has Rapti and Ghagra rivers that come that come to Uttar Pradesh straight from Nepal. So this particular district gave all these elements, brought all these elements. So I'll quickly discuss my methods and tools of data collection. So the methods have been key informant interviews. I interviewed key informants. In-depth interviews were done, observation and listening to people. Then document analysis by collecting documents from within the setting and from outside, also relating to the setting. Meeting minutes of the different meetings regarding flood governance. Their minutes were their minutes are also being analyzed. Then the tools have been interview guide, government reports, archive from different relevant relevant departments that are directly connected to flood risk governance in the district of Gorakhpur. Then I can explain that what are the tools and methods. I have like every objective, every research questions, like how were they addressed methodologically, and what kind of data were were used to answer to those research questions. So these are the slides. If I'm allowed, I can explain.
Akanksha, I think
yes,
for the sake of the audience, it's fine. I think if you can explain which methods you applied to address those research questions, so that we can follow, exactly, so yeah, please go ahead, because you mentioned that you just collected data. Right now, you don't have, data analysis portion in that detail. So it makes sense to me if you can just explain why you address this question for which methodology and which theory you want to relate, with that question. Thank you.
So for the first research objective, that was to understand complexities of institutions involved in flood risk governance and their everydayness at district level. The question, okay, so I missed, okay. So the questions, there were two questions. There were three questions. So for the first two questions, how have the flood risk governance institutions at district been formed historically, and the pathways through which the old practices and accepted norms have evolved with new arrangements. The methods and tools of data collection were document analysis of Gorakhpur district gazetteer, because that gives a historical overview of how district has developed over the period of time, and then archives from irrigation departments, district disaster management plans. Also key informant interviews with the people and civil society organizations that have been there. For example, like Gorakhpur Environmental Action Group has been working there for a very, very long time, and they are very well aware in the flood-prone riparian region. For the other research question of the first objective, to understand the institutional frameworks, power hierarchy, and internal dynamics of flood bureaucracies. Again, observations and in-depth interview with political representative and key actors in the offices, departments of rural development, district magistrate, agriculture protection, and other relevant departments were done. And document analysis of Gorakhpur district gazetteer was again very useful to answer this question, and district disaster management plan. Then to understand the social, cultural, and political resources that come together to structure flood governance institutions, document analysis of Gorakhpur district gazetteer again, district disaster management plan again, and observation and key informant interview with the people in the flood-prone villages, their political representatives, civil society organizations that have been there for a very, very long time, local CSOs, and then then actors in the offices, department of and other relevant departments. For the second research objective, to explore the flood risk governance, how it is understood and approached by the bureaucracy. The questions were, how do relevant department and district administrations involved in flood risk reduction mediate relationship with people, natural water resources, and society? And then what is the understanding and approach of district bureaucracy towards flood risk governance? The methods were observation and in-depth interviews with relevant actors in relevant departments, and document analysis of Gorakhpur district disaster management plan, flood related meeting minutes, and official orders and guidelines. For the last research objective, to explore policy and implementation gaps, and also to understand like what are the policy level commitments and for the flood risk governance and disaster risk reduction at district level in context of floods. The methods and tools used were document analysis of National Disaster Management Policy, Plan, and Act. Uttar Pradesh State Disaster Management also has an act and plan that were also analyzed. Then Gorakhpur District Disaster Management Plan was also analyzed. Then another research question for the same objective was, how does flood risk governance, DRR mainstreaming, and flood mitigation shape at district level? How do they actually look like at the ground zero? So the methods were document analysis and of meeting minutes and other relevant documents, for example, like office orders, sanctioned and implemented projects, what kind of projects are being implemented and sanctioned, and how are they being planned, and planning reports. Then observation and informal interviews with people in flood-prone riparian regions, their villages, panchayat representatives, political representatives, etc., and other directly relevant stakeholders. Then, so these were my methods and data tools. Now the data analysis that is still going on is taking place through the transcription and field notes and observations. I can also use Atlas software if depending upon the requirement, because I'm at a very initial stage of my analysis. I'm just back from my data collection. Yeah, ethical considerations were there, maintained at the time of data collection and at the time of report writing. It has ensured the safety of respondents and their identity will not be disclosed at any point in time. And the volunteerism is also taken care of. Informed consent has been taken, and sensitivity has also been taken into consideration. So this is what my research is up to. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your suggestions and your mentorship.
Thank you, Akanksha, for your presentation. And I think we don't have the second presenter. So what I'm thinking, I will just first start with Khusiman Pun regarding his presentation about the topic regarding female children carrying the cost of natural disaster, evidence from 2015 Nepal's earthquake. I already see some comments in the chat area, but I also see some familiarity, like when I was looking at the presentation, I didn't have the paper, Khusiman Pun, it says Khusiman. So I was just waiting for your presentation for some explanation, but I also took some notes, and I will definitely go through the questions from the chat area. But maybe I can do it this way. First of all, it would have been great if you, in your presentation or maybe in the paper, you clearly explain what you meant by secondary school completion in Nepal, because it varies sometimes, definitely in different parts of the world, and in South Asia, this is also, from which grade or school level, we are talking about, if you're talking about secondary school completion, are you talking about, 9, 10, 11, 12, or, completion all the way to 12, grade 12, that was not clear, from your presentation. I was actually don't have the paper, so I don't know, the definition over there. And that's why I also had a follow-up question regarding those cohort that you created. The 16-year, 17-year, and 18-year-old, and the survey was done a year after the earthquake, right? So I'm just wondering, those 16-year-old cohort, are they still in that, if the survey was done in 2017 and asking, that 16-year-old cohort we are talking about, are they still in the process of completing the secondary school? That was not clear to me. Are you talking about that group is 16-year-old, or you're talking about 2 years ago, that group who are 16, now they're 18. So I don't know that transition. It was very difficult, even from the presentation, it was not clear to me regarding, how these cohorts are, answering, that particular specific question, because this is a very important aspect of your research, right? The secondary school completion and the cohort. And that's why another question I have, the folks who are 25 to 30, for example, and even 30 to 40, they have completed their secondary school way before the earthquake, right? If I can understand the secondary school definition. So I don't know how this could be helpful to, when you do those robustness check with the 25 to 30 and 30 to 40, right? Especially 30 to 40 age group. Because if you're asking them about their children's secondary school completion, or the people they're aware, know in their family, then it makes sense to me, rather than that particular group, asking them, about their secondary school completion and using this as a robustness check. And my second question is specifically regarding your model. What is the assumption behind your difference in difference? You didn't mention that in your presentation. And since, again, I don't have the paper, I don't know what exactly your, assumptions, is it like a, if I can understand, if you're considering the earthquake here, like the Nepal earthquake, are you talking about your assumption in the, say, for example, if there's an earthquake or in the absence of earthquake, there should not be no systematic difference, right, on the education outcomes, the secondary school completion of the age group, right? The 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and 18-year-old cohort. Again, I'm not sure, like if your focus is on those three groups, make sure it is very clear. Which are you talking about that particular cohorts, completion you're talking about? There's no systematic difference due to the earthquake, because at the very end, I got confused about your robustness check when you bring in that 30 to 35 above and that group, so that is one area. And regarding the controls, I like to see, like, if you think about school infrastructure, especially, especially the treated group, if I can understand, the treated group are mainly those areas which are affected heavily during the earthquake, right? If I can follow your presentation. So I think it is very important, like then you should control for the school infrastructure. I didn't see any control regarding the school infrastructure, like the areas that the survey is completed, the school areas you're talking about, what is the status of the school infrastructure, especially after the earthquake. If it is totally destroyed, then I can imagine those areas, they have some severe disruptions in the schooling activity or educational activity, right? So Khusiman, I would say that if you can get that information, that would be great. Even if it is not, of course, not coming from the survey, but at least I'm sure you can get it for each area, like the situation of the school infrastructure, how many schools were destroyed or impacted. And if the survey is conducted from that particular area, then, it makes sense to me, to control for the school infrastructure. So that should be there. And again, I need a bit of like an explanation regarding your subgroup analysis, as I was mentioning, that why you went for that 25 to 30 and then especially 30 to 40 age group regarding the secondary school completion. Are you talking about their completion or their family members completion? Those kind of, so because it is, you're talking about the earthquake, implication of earthquake on the educational outcomes, right? And now if I look at regarding the policy implication, I think somebody
I think we lost Dr. Sakib. I don't know. Let's wait for him to reconnect.
Meanwhile, Khusiman, you can answer Vinish Ji's question.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bohara. Yeah, I think there are like lot of questions and feedback I have obtained for my presentation. Really thankful for that. And Dr. Sakib have actually like summarized like most of the important comments that were mentioned here about like school infrastructure, systematic difference, and like lot of like good comments. And I think it's definitely going to improve my paper a lot. So for the first comment on the systematic difference, I think there could be a difference, but if there is this parallel trend assumption fulfilled, and I think like even though there is the difference before the earthquake also, that won't matter a lot. But yes, the parallel trend assumption should be satisfied, and after this comment, I seriously feel that I had to get into that assumptions things more clear, and so it in my paper. And there is this comment from Rajan. Yeah, Dr. Sakib, would you like to add more? Like,
no, sorry, I had some internet connection around that time, and I was thinking like, let me go through the questions, all the questions first, and then you go one by one. That was I was thinking. So anyway, maybe I'll just add before you start, the policy implication. I think you tried to share it during your presentation. the policy implications was not that clear to me, So anyway, please go ahead.
Yeah, like this. This one is like just a work in progress, and I got this result very recently, and like that's why like I wanted to get the feedback from you all, and that's what I'm getting right now, and I'm really happy for that. Yeah, that the policy implication thing was like I was just trying to like use 1-2 more minutes that I had. Anyway, like regarding the comment from Rajan Parazulu, what would be the possible explanation of this finding? Yeah, I think like there should be some more mechanism that I need to address in my paper that would really add my paper, like improve my paper. But when I was going through this regression, all this thing, I found that in my primary education, that is like 550 standard, I didn't find any result in that. Whereas in the secondary school completion, that is like 10th standard. And thank you, Dr. Shoki, for telling me that what is the secondary education. I have to explain this thing in my paper. Yeah, secondary school is the 10th standard, and in the 10th standard I was finding that there is this negative result, and especially in the female children. And I got this, what could be the economic rationale behind this result? Like why in primary I am not getting, and why I am getting in the secondary school completion? I think the rationale could be, the economic rationale could be, at primary school the children, they are not economically active, right? But whereas in the 10th standard, where they reach 16, 17, 18 years old, they can be economically active. And also at the 10th standard, the opportunity cost of schooling would go high. And that could be the reason that at the 6th year, people might be going to the labor market. Like it's in the rural setting, so people might be going to the agriculture, like to earn money, and that could be some possible explanation. But for that, like I need to do more empirical things, so that if I find that the female children are like leaving school or like going to the labor market at that time, then that could be a possible explanation. And thank you for that comment. That I think I have to need to do more in that. And about the comment from Soumyajit, that is there like controlling of the school infrastructure? Yes, I need to do that. Thank you for this comment, Soumyajit. And about like budget constraint story from Vinish, yes, this is something I need to work on. And Thanishwar have made a comment. Thanishwar sir have made a comment that why there is this in 16th year group we have got the result, whereas in 17, 18 we don't have. It could be like at 17 and 18, they have, most of the children might have already achieved the secondary school completed, and there is not variation in that group. Whereas in the 16, which is like after the earthquake, after the earthquake during the survey time, they are 16. That means like they have like in the graph in the figure 2, I saw that most of the people, they completed the 16-year-old, right? So at that 16-year-old, the survey time, I think that's where the more variation we are looking at, and that's why we're getting that result only in the 16, not in the 17 and 18. And other comments, Vinish has shared a paper, and I thank you so much for that. I'll definitely go through that paper. And Bhuvan, like, I'm wondering why the effect is significant even after controlling for the wealth. Yeah, I think like even after controlling for the wealth, even in the rich household, there could be a tendency of like the resource allocation because of the loss of the assets, right? We can see that the household, even in the rich household, they might have the preference of shifting their investment more towards the son than the female children. That could be the possible mechanism, that even after the controlling of the wealth, there is this certain household behavior which is reflected in this result. I think this is what I have to say. Thank you so much for all this beautiful comment.
And Khusiman, I think Vinish ji has a good suggestion as well. You should include all your results, primary, secondary. That's what he suggested, the last comment that I can see.
I think yes, definitely. I was confused in the beginning, like should I add or not? But I think there is this good story that why we are getting result in secondary, not in the primary. And yeah, I think that would definitely add this story. Thank you so much, Vinish, for this beautiful comment.
Okay, thank you, Khusiman. And regarding, just open. And regarding Akanksha's presentation, I just want to see, like, there's a question from the chat from Soumyajit. He's asking, what's your take on the rise of caste and religion-based politics in Gorakhpur in relation to the flood risk management program? Does your literature survey suggest anything to do with this kind of politics? Akanksha, you can answer that.
Yeah. It definitely has. I mean, political resources have a role in shaping flood risk governance at the grassroots, and this is a very sensitive question. So please give me some time. Maybe I can, if I can have your email ID, I'll definitely share my findings with you. I have to be careful in answering to this particular question. Yeah, right now I can say for sure that yes, social, political, cultural resources have a very, very major role in shaping flood risk management in Gorakhpur. So, but how exactly, and comments in detail that I can mail you once I'm done and my analysis is approved by my guide.
Akanksha, I have a question regarding your, presentation. When I was hearing the presentation, I'm just curious, like you talked about, those mainly the key informant interviews and observations regarding your methods to answer the three research questions that you have, or the three research objectives. So I'm just wondering those, how you trying to get hold of those theoretical perspectives like new liberalism, governmentally, street level bureaucracy, public service reforms, and rational choice institutionalism. So is it like you try to come up with some specific questions to identify whether those there's some applications of those theories, or is there some relationship like how it is been managed, the flood risk governance is managed in Uttar Pradesh?
Sir, in my PPT, I mean, in my presentation, those theoretical perspectives, I was trying to give an idea that what all theoretical perspectives that I have explored and I have gone through. But this particular research looks at things from critical institutionalism lens. So critical institutionalism is something that the research has adopted to.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And I know that you have not done your data analysis yet, but what's your initial observation? Are you seeing like lots of, the issues regarding institutional failure or bureaucracy, red tapeism affecting those functionality of the flood risk governance process or implementation? What's your initial thought? Like, I know that you have not done the data analysis. I'm just curious to know.
Sir, because I have interviewed all these and the district collector and all the SDMs in all the 7 tehsils of that district. So these are all very responsible and key officials that are involved with flood risk management in the district. So, there are many things that I would like to say, and I didn't expect it to be this vast, but there are very, what I assumed and, what I was, I have read and, what I found on the ground. So there are many things. I really, the data, okay, so answering to your question, I will not say that there has been an institutional failure at the district level, but yes, there is a somewhere I found that probably there the policy level visualization at the national level and state level, that I have realized that it has a very, very huge role in shaping the flood risk governance at the district level also.
Thank you, Akanksha. Akanksha, I just need to stop here. You can just email me, like relator, no problem. Email me, that should be fine. For the sake of our time, actually, for the program, I need to end our session here, session 1 on natural disasters. I want to thank both Khusiman and Akanksha for their presentation, and thanks to the audience for very constructive feedback.